House will come to order. I was waiting on the Rules Committee, but the chairman's here. House will come to order. Members will please take your seats. Mr. Clerk, why don't you hit the bell a few times so they know we're ready? Members will please take your seats. We're going to take up a local calendar. We're going to take up a local calendar. Two bills on the local calendar relate to homestead exemption, require a recorded 2/3 roll call vote for passage. One of these bills is an agree-disagree. Having received the requisite number of signatures required, the House delegation wishes to agree to the Senate substitute to the bill. Third reading and passage of uncontested local bills. If there is no objection, we will vote on the local calendar as a whole with a recorded vote. Hearing none, it is so ordered. Mr. Clerk, will you read the local calendar?
Senate Bill 574 by Senator Strickland, the 17th, Alcovey Judicial Circuit. Senate Bill 580 by Senator Strickland, the 17th, City of Madison. Senate Bill 584 by Senator Jones, the 10th, City of Stockbridge. House Bill 1455 is substituted by the Senate by Representative Saints of the 180th, City of St. Mary's.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on the local calendar? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bills? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall these bills now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bills on the local calendar will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machines? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the local calendar, the yeas are 165. The nays are 0. The local calendar, having received a requisite constitutional majority vote, is therefore passed. Okay, members. I'm glad to see you all too. We're going to move on and take up some further actions. Representative Beth Camp is recognized for a motion. Lady will suspend for a moment. Okay, Chair Lady Camp.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to make a motion to agree to the Senate substitute as amended by the House for H.R. 1022.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
H.R. 1022, proposing an amendment of the Constitution so as to provide for local governments to have the option to offer a statewide homestead exemption from ad valorem taxes.
Chair Lady Camp is recognized to explain the Senate substitute and the House amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Senate substitute added some lines to this, lines 2 through 4, and it talks about the $2,000 statewide homestead exemption. That was the measure the Speaker put forth, and Representative Reeves diligently worked to get to the Senate. We have married the bills. My bill relates to the homestead exemption, the floating statewide homestead exemption, and so they were added together into one measure. And I ask for your consideration to agree to this measure.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Ladies, yielded the well. Is there any objection to the adoption of the House amendment? The chair hears none, and the House amendment is adopted. On the lady's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Resolution 1022 as amended by the House. All those in favor will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the lady's motion, the yeas are 171, the nays are 0, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Resolution 1022 as amended by the House. Representative Blackman, Chairman Blackman is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that we agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 581 as amended by the House.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
House Bill 581 to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 28.541.1 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to economic analysis of certain tax benefits of law or proposed law.
The gentleman is recognized to explain the Senate substitute and the House amendment. Chairman Blackman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think both the House and the Senate have worked diligently on legislation to help property owners and our homeowners. So what we have here is the amended version of what they sent us, and I think it's very close to an agree on their part. It includes 3 measures that passed favorably out of this body earlier this session. Explain Part 1. It includes measures from House Bill 1031 by Representative Washburn. Thank you, Representative Washburn. And it has language for our locals to help deal with some unintended consequences and add some transparency measures. Part 2 is the statewide floating homestead provision with an opt-out for our locals. It has a cap at the CPI, and that was Representative Camp. Thank you so much. You worked very hard on that particular bill. That was 1185. And then Part 3 is House Bill 1115, the F-loss provision. And it is included with some pretty strict guardrails, but it gives locals access to this +1 penny if they in fact adopt at the city and county levels the floating homestead exemption as part of this bill. That was Representative Williams' bill. Thank you so much for your hard work. Mr. Speaker.
You have a couple of questions if you'll take them.
Well, just to close, I'd say this has been heavily vetted and fully supported by ACCG and GMA and other stakeholders, and I'd ask for the body's favorable consideration.
Will you yield for a question? I have one for you.
Yes, sir. I will yield for a question.
Representative Wilkerson, in the back to your left, is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir. I will try to yield. Yes, sir.
You scared me. Did you say ACCG and GMA both agreed?
They fully support the measure.
All right, so that means I got a question. To my friends, what does this do for the 3-year lock? Right now, if you appeal, you get a 3-year lock on your property taxes, whether you have a rollback or not. Does this remove that automatic 3-year lock?
It does not remove the lock, but actually what we determined, I think, during the off session when there were several hearings that were filed, is that the unintended consequence has been an unfortunate one for the homeowners. Say, for instance, in one county, I think it was Paulding, over 90+% of the filings for that appeal are actually by the corporate side. And so homeowners are getting shoved to the back of the line. So this appeal is still available, and if you're found by the Board of Equalization even $1 in your favor, then that 3-year lock would still apply.
So does the gentleman further yield?
Yes,
so
sir.
Just to clarify, the 3-year lock only applies if you get a reduction in your taxes.
It is not automatic. That is correct, sir. And again, like I said, that has actually had that unintended consequence, according to the testimony, that it has actually raised property taxes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentleman has no further questions.
I will again ask this body for their favorable consideration. Yield the will.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the House amendment? Chair hears none, and the House amendment is adopted. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 581 as amended by the House, all those in favor will vote yes, all those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the yeas are 164, the nays are 2, and the House has agreed to the Senate sub as amended by the House on House Bill 581. Representative Stinson is recognized for a motion. Representative Patty Stinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1303 as amended by the House.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
To be entitled an act to amend Code Section 4286 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to special license plates promoting or supporting certain worthy agencies, funds, or nonprofit corporations.
Representative Stinson is recognized to explain the Senate substitute and the House amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I ask for your support to House Bill 1303. The amended bill that you have on your desk is AM 390433, and it's the special license plate honoring the Shepherd Center. The other portion of the legislation includes a special license plate honoring Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. The funds raised by the sale of this special license plate will be dispersed to the Delta Life Development Center. And the final portion of the legislation that includes license fees for operations of vehicles for ambulances and hearse. So that is basically the bill, and I ask for your favorable support to House Bill 1303 as it amended.
Lady has no questions.
Okay, so I yield the well and ask for your favorable support. Thank you.
The lady has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the adoption of the House amendment? Chair hears none, and the House amendment is adopted. On the motion, the lady's motion, that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1303 as amended by the House. All those in favor will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the lady's motion, the yeas are 172, the nay is 1, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1303 as amended by the House. Members, I want you to give some special attention to this next action. Representative Seabaugh is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I make a motion we agree to the Senate amendment to House Bill 451.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
House Bill 451 to be entitled an act to amend Title 45 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to public officers and employees so as to require the provision of a supplemental illness-specific insurance to certain first responders diagnosed with occupational post-traumatic stress disorder.
Representative Seabaugh is recognized. Representative Seabaugh, you can tell a story and make an introduction if you'd like to. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, colleagues. If you'll remember, House Bill 451 addresses the growing epidemic of first responder PTSD in Georgia and requires local and state governments to provide a one-time lifetime supplemental insurance benefit for first responders to cover expenses should they suffer or be diagnosed with PTSD resulting from exposure to line-of-duty traumatic events. This bill's passed unanimous out of all the House committees, out of this body, out of the Senate Insurance Committee, and out of the Senate. We did ask for a friendly amendment, and we made one
Gentlemen, if you'll suspend just for a moment. Representative Seabaugh, if you'll continue.
We made one change on page 9, line 214, I believe it is. It's just a simple change to the date from January 1, 2024 to 2025. And at my request, on page 1, line 14, it now reads, "This act shall be known and may be cited as the Ashley Wilson Act." And today we have with us Gwinnett Police Sergeant Ashley Wilson in the chamber, and I want to thank her for her tenacity and support in making sure we found a solution to this growing problem. And we have found a way to assist these men and women that are suffering PTSD, and several of them taking their life. But now we have a way for them to get the help that they need, and we're going to save lives by doing this. And if I can, Ashley, will you stand and let us recognize you? And I also would like to mention we have Jenny Hill with us. She's with a nonprofit foundation called Back the Blue. Jenny was a Cobb County police officer that also suffered from PTSD, and now she has a K-9 that she takes around the country to help law enforcement officers that are suffering PTSD. So Jenny, we welcome you as well. Thank you for being with us today. And with that, colleagues, I'll ask for your favorable consideration, and I yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Thank you, members. Ladies, thank you for your sacrifice and your tenacity. We appreciate both of you and your service, and our thoughts and our prayers and our actions will support you and the experiences you two have had with your fellow officers, and we just appreciate both of you. Thank you for being here. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to Senate substitute to House Bill 451, that we agree to the Senate substitute of House Bill 451, all those in favor will vote yes, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? For what purpose does Representative Sharp arise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry, sir.
Is it not true that I've been in the emergency medical field for 35 years, and I've seen a lot of things over my life that I probably never forget seeing, and I know that several others have been in the same situation that probably couldn't handle it and taken their lives, and I support this bill 100%.
Thank you for your service to the people of Georgia as a representative and as a dedicated EMS. All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the yeas are 174. The nays are 0, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 451. Congratulations, Representative Seabaugh, and Ashley Wilson, congratulations. Representative Seabaugh and Ashley, will y'all join me? Would you mind? Okay, members, let me get your attention for a second. We have some former members on the floor. In the back of the room is Representative Donna McLeod. Donna, great to have you back. Let's give her a round of applause. Donna McLeod. Good to see you, Eric. Representative Eric Allen, good to have you back, Eric. Thank you for being with us. The one and only Chairman Jason Shaw is also with us. Jason Shaw. Stay right there. Representative Stephen Saines is recognized for a motion. Representative Saines.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I motion to agree to the Senate substitute of House Bill 206.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
House Bill 206 to be entitled an act to amend Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia and intended relating to local government so as to provide for the creation of a commercial property assessed conservation, energy, and resiliency development authorities.
Representative Saines is recognized to explain the Senate substitute.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My dear colleagues, I want to start off by apologizing about my excitement on a good piece of policy. I understand it came to us late Thursday, and although it does a lot of good, simple could not be utilized to describe this piece of legislation. However, as you look at the Senate substitute for clarification, SCSFA, we did get this 26-page bill down to 16 pages. So in terms of what the CPACE, the Commercial Property Assessed Conservation, Energy, and Resiliency Financing does, a financial tool that has been utilized in 34 other states and within this bill makes a very conservative utilization of it within the state of Georgia. It will allow our private developers to obtain a much lower market interest rate on certain parts of their property, their projects, whether it be to renovate or to build, that they can currently obtain. It comes as no surprise to you, nor any families in this state, nor our job creators, that we are living in a high interest rate environment. And again, CPACE is a tool that our Georgia legislature can provide to our communities to have a lower cost in improving facilities, replacing an aging roof, installing water or energy efficiency fixtures, or building, like in my area, a more hurricane-proof standard project. The community development tool comes at no cost to local taxpayers, as you can see in lines 185 to 189, as well as in your Senate substitute, which you will see doesn't look much like the House version. This is only because we modified it from creating a new title in Title 36 to modifying the Development Authority title. Again, that makes it to where it creates less local government within the title. This bill comes from the favorable consideration of the Economic Developers Association, the Georgia Hotel and Lodging Association, the Georgia Restaurant Association, the Association of Manufacturers, the Municipal Association, and the Georgia Healthcare Association. This is because this tool can be utilized in any project that is looking to build in the state of Georgia for 20% of that project for a variety of circumstances, from nursing homes to hospitals to, I believe, Baptist convention centers, to many more items that every community can benefit from. And to be transparent, the reason I looked at this not very simple policy as a good measure is a brownfield site in downtown St. Mary's, Georgia, that 20 years ago was our leading economic developer, Gilman Paper Company, that now is sitting dormant because there is no developer that has been able to retrofit that project within market costs. This tool that's currently already accessible in the state of Georgia, but not accessible to communities like mine or like yours, because our DDA structure that we currently have in place for it is not attainable for smaller cities or even medium-sized cities. This will allow them to come to market at a much lower cost with, again, and I want to describe the structure of this because we did get a couple questions about it last night. What will happen is the developer goes and does a financing application to the local development authority that has allowed this tool to be used within their authority. They must then, if that development authority finds it within the code section of this law, within the applicability and within a capital provider that can guarantee the bond, they must then enter into an intergovernmental agreement that includes all participating local governments, the developer, and the capital provider. They then can issue revenue bonds that is paid for by the developer through their property tax assessment. I will yield, Mr. Speaker, for any questions if there are any.
Yeah, you have a couple of questions.
I'll yield for as many as you find pertinent to the bill.
Well, I'm not sure about that now. We won't have to qualify all of them, but I'm going to recognize Whip Park. He usually has pertinent questions. Let's see how he does.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sometimes. Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
Is it not true that House Bill 206 passed this House last year with bipartisan support, 135 yeas?
It is true.
Is it not further true that participation in this program would be completely voluntary and at no cost to the participants?
It would be at no cost to the participating local governments, and again, it's a voluntary way for the developer to tax themselves to obtain a lower risk and lower interest rate on part of their loaning and building.
Thank you, sir. My final question, is it not true that I plan on voting yes to this bill because it will allow for private low-cost financing to modernize infrastructure, to increase energy efficiency, conserve water, and improve resiliency?
So it's a good idea when we can agree on good policy for the state of Georgia that improves the quality of not only development in our communities, but our communities overall. So thank you. I yield for further questions if there are any, Mr. Speaker.
You have a couple more. Chairman LaHood to your right in the corner has a question. Chairman LaHood.
Will the gentleman yield?
I do.
It's not true that the business community in this state is asking for this bill, as evidenced by written requests from multiple business associations around the state, and that this will enable them to meet critical needs in regards to commercial real estate development.
They are asking for it, and unlike some policy questions we have, this request doesn't come from us having to decide is it of enough benefit to spend state resources, but we are only creating a structure that we can infuse private capital at a less risk and thus less interest rate to that provider. So it makes sense that the business community is strongly in favor of it.
Thank you. And one more question, please.
I do yield.
Is it not true that this can be done at no cost to taxpayers and the local government, and the borrower incurs all the fees associated with it?
As a great fiscal steward, as evident by the committee that you chair, you're correct. It is at zero cost to the taxpayer, and in multiple lines of this legislation, it makes clear that the faith and credit of this state, nor any participating local government, can be utilized for the repayment of the bonds. I'll yield for a further question.
You have a question from Representative Darlene Taylor up the center aisle on your left.
Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
Is it not true that I had so much interest in this particular idea that last year I convened a meeting with my local bankers, builders, cities and counties, and they all were very much in favor of this because it's giving an opportunity to affect efficiencies in building over a long-term low interest rates.
Madam Chair, lady, I agree, and thanks to your efforts, along with many in this room, the Banking Association and the Credit Union Associations have been worked with, and it's been made clear that if there is a traditional loan involved within the project, that that institution must give a prior authorization for the CPACE structure to be utilized.
There's one in the back in the right corner. Chairman Carpenter has a question. Chairman Carpenter.
Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
Is it not true that I've actually voted no twice on this bill, but after doing a really, really deep dive into this, I realized that while the policy seems skewy from the federal government, it is a shame to not allow the states to utilize what the crazy federal government's come up with.
I appreciate you reflecting on your stance and being pro-business, as I know you are on many things, and ensuring that our communities have tools to combat the current high interest rate that we are facing all around this nation.
You have more.
I'll yield for one more question, Mr. Speaker.
I'll recognize Representative Al Williams for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is it not true that you have done a much better job explaining this bill this time than you originally did?
I was told by many that I left y'all unsatisfied by the brevity that I spoke in last Thursday night, and I hope I haven't repeated myself.
Is it not true you haven't repeated yourself, but it wasn't just the brevity, it was the lack of. But is it not true that I too have voted against this bill, but one of the questions that you've answered have satisfied me in that there is no liability on the part of any development authority, because we already do pass those and pick up taxes anyhow, but I just was concerned about the liability.
I understand your concern, and you are very right in saying there is no risk to the development authority, as the only way that the capital provider can obtain the loan is through the assessed property. And furthermore, that I know that you would be excited to be for a measure that will allow our coastal communities to enhance their ability for the sweet cherry wine that you speak of so favorably, to enhance their ability to conserve that cherry wine for the appropriate uses.
One final question to my newfound friend who I admire because of his taste in wine. But is it not finally true that the gentleman from Dalton spoke of the terrible policies of Washington, that we will be looking for a refund check of all that terrible federal money that was spent down there?
I know I will yield the well on that note, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for your favorable consideration to this measure.
Sounds like the gentleman was tired, hungry, and thirsty the other night, so I think we can all agree on that. The gentleman has yielded the well. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute on House Bill 206, all those in favor will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? For what purposes, Representative Houston rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that this is a different bill than the one we saw on Thursday night that was passed out on the floor?
Sounded like it to me.
And thank you so much for putting the true bill on with us.
I'll read it carefully again tonight after we adjourn and make sure it was.
Well, I think we had the wrong one that was passed out late Thursday night. Thank you.
Thank you for that point of clarification. For what purposes, Representative Becky Evans rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that sea level is rising and the climate is warming, and that this bill will help our communities in Georgia to become more resilient and sustainable?
The only thing I can tell you, I'm ready to get out of here and get out in the sunshine. So you may be right on at least part of what your statement is. All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machines On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute of House Bill 206, the yeas are 142 and the nays are 22. The House has agreed. For what the chair recognizes Representative Townsend for a motion. Representative Townsend. Got a coastal thing going on here. Representative Townsend's recognized.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to I'd like to agree to HB 181 and the Senate has passed.
You want to agree to the Senate substitute,
Senate
correct?
substitute, yes, sir.
Absolutely. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
House Bill 181 to be entitled, an act to amend Chapter 13 to Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to controlled substances.
Gentleman is recognized to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Everybody, I'd like to thank you for your past support and upcoming support. Hopefully, this overwhelmingly passed in the House and Senate. House last year, Senate this year. Basically, they adjusted just a couple of things. They lowered the penalties for the store clerk. Everything else has stayed the same except for the date as well. So we're still requiring strong labeling, still requiring penalties for the bad actors on the higher level, and just really appreciate your support and answer any questions at this time, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman has no questions.
Thank you.
He's yielded the will. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 181, all those in favor will vote yes, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the yeas are 164, the nays are 6, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 181. Chairman Leverett is recognized for a motion. House Bill 220.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 220.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
House Bill 220 to be entitled, an act to amend Title 44 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to property so as to provide for means of enforcement of condominium property owners association instruments, rules, and regulations.
Representative Leverett is recognized to explain the Senate substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This was a bill we passed out last year that would address the way homeowners associations, condo associations, and property owners associations can enforce their covenants. The bill basically required that there be notice and a right to cure given to the property owner before the association took any action. And we also added provisions that made it clear that addressed a judicial decision that effectively required the HOA to go on your property and try to fix whatever the condition was before they even went to court. So this changed it so they would have to go to court, prove to a judge that there's a violation rather than just go on the property. The other reason they were requesting this is they don't like to go on property because they sometimes get shot at when they do it without a court order. So this was for the safety of the HOA personnel, condo association personnel, as well as to protect the rights of the property owner. In the Senate, they added some additional provisions that strengthen the interest of the property owners by saying that they can't take away or suspend voting rights based on failure to pay fines. And they also added a provision where members can call a meeting, the annual meeting of an HOA or a property owner association, by a certain number of signatures. I think it was a pretty low percentage if the officers failed to hold that annual meeting. So we believe the changes made over there strengthen the bill, increase the rights of those who are in HOAs and property owners associations, and I would ask that you favorably approve the motion.
Gentleman has a question, if you'll yield.
Yes, sir, I'll yield.
Representative Jasmine Clark to your left has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am, I'll yield.
So just to be clear, in the first part of the bill, lines 21 through 28, we are saying that the HOA, after giving notice, can just come onto your property and change things?
No, exactly the contrary. They cannot. Right now, the court's rulings have required them to do that. This would change it so they don't. They would go to court first and get an order and allow you a hearing in front of an impartial third party to present your position.
All right, thank you for clarifying that. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying as well. That's an important point of the legislation.
Representative Chairman Park.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman Park. I want to get that straight. Whip Park, before I get in trouble. Whip Park has a question. He's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chairman Leverett, to go off of Representative Clark's point, so on lines 21 to 28, would this allow an HOA to immediately go to a court as opposed to simply talking to the homeowner about addressing certain issues or problems that they may be having?
No, sir, because at the request of the Realtors Association, there is a provision in the bill that requires a written notice by letter and an opportunity to cure before they take that action.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, and congratulations on your recent promotion.
One more, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Representative Rhonda Taylor to your left.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain to me how this benefits the homeowners' rights? Is there an ombudsman program in here where both sides are represented for protection?
I'm sorry, Madam Representative, I didn't hear you said is there a what?
Can you explain the benefits of this for the homeowner? This seems to be proactive for the HOAs only. What in this bill gives homeowners' rights?
Well, I would say as it has turned out, everything does. The homeowner, the HOA or the condo association cannot take any action unless they first tell you there's a problem and tell you exactly what it is and give you a chance to remedy it. They can't take any action at all. Secondly, this will encourage them not to go onto your property before they let you have a hearing before a judge to present your side of the story. The judge may agree with you that there is no violation. So it actually will eliminate the current state of the law, which requires that they try to go onto your property if it's some kind of condition that needs to be cured in their position. It'll eliminate that need so they can after giving you notice and right to cure, they would then initiate the action and let you have a hearing before a judge.
Does the gentleman further?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's say, for example, that what you said just happened. They notify the homeowner. The homeowner has to go to court. What actually enforces the law? I mean, you can get an order from the court. And the reason why I say that is because we've been having hearings on HOAs and rentals, and the stories are horrid that the HOAs are just dismissing whatever the judge is saying, whatever the court says. What forces or enforces the law, that ability?
Well, I mean, the homeowner could enforce the law. I suppose the issue the lady's talking about is admittedly not touched by this bill, but it tries to avoid those problems from happening on the front end by giving people more notice and more rights than they currently might have.
I appreciate the attempt in trying to resolve this ongoing issue.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate your question.
The gentleman has no further questions.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Speaker, I would ask the body's favorable consideration of the motion and ask you to vote green. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 220, all those in favor will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? All members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motions, the yeas are 160, the nays are 10, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 220. Representative Leverett, you're up again. 825. Chair recognizes Representative Leverett. You're going to be worn out, man, for the night, so if you keep going. Representative Leverett is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There isn't any going to be about it. Mr. Speaker, I move that the House agree to the Senate amendment to House Bill 825.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
House Bill 825 to be titled, an act to amend Chapter 23, Title 47 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated, relating the judicial retirement system, so as to require certain counties that comprise single county judicial circuits to supplement the retirement benefits paid to the Circuit Superior Court judges.
Representative Leverett is recognized to explain the Senate amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, House Bill 825 was a local district attorney supplemental retirement bill. Those now apparently, in the opinion of Legislative Council, cannot be done as local bills, but have to be done as a general bill drafted so that it has limited application. So HB 825 provided that the district attorney for the Columbia County Judicial Circuit could have local supplemental retirement. There's no impact on the state. It's all to be paid by the local jurisdiction, and the local jurisdiction has requested this. In the Senate, an additional similar bill got added for the judges of the State Court of Fulton County. It was Representative Bruce's bill, which he presented and this body passed. So we've got basically two local retirement supplement bills combined now into one. Both bills have zero, or not fiscal bills in the opinion of the auditor. They have no impact on state funds. They're all to be paid from local funds. And I would ask your favorable consideration of the motion. And I'll yield for any questions.
You have one question. Representative Roger Bruce, you called him out. Now he's going to respond. The gentleman's recognized for a question.
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for carrying the bill.
You're very welcome. Thank you for classing my bill up with your bill.
You have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask your favorable consideration of the Senate amendment. Thank you.
On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate amendment to House Bill 825, all those in favor will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the yeas are 168, the nays are 0, and the House has agreed to the Senate amendment to House Bill 825. Representative LaHood, you're recognized for a motion.
I would like to make a motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute for House Bill 974.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
House Bill 974 to be titled, an act to amend Chapter 2, Title 21 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated, relating to primaries and elections generally, so as to require the Secretary of State to establish and maintain a statewide system for the posting of scanned paper ballots.
Representative LaHood is recognized to explain the Senate substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. House Bill 974 is a combination of 3 House bills that crossed over to the Senate. They were combined over there and sent back for us to agree. And what Section 1 and 2 does is puts a visible security feature on the ballots. Sections 3 and 4 require that the Secretary of State post ballot images online, and it specifies the resolution threshold. And Section 5 expands audits, pre-certification audits. And Section 6 requires the Secretary to stand up a optical character recognition verification audit program. And that's the bill, Mr. Speaker. I'll take any questions if there are any.
Gentleman has no questions.
All right, I yield the well. Thanks for your favorable consideration.
Gentleman's yielded the well. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 974, all those in favor will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? For what purpose does Representative David Clark rise? He waves. Have all members now voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the yeas are 136. The nays are 29, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 974. Change it. Chair recognizes Chairman Powell for a motion. Chairman Alan Powell is recognized for a motion. No, for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask the members of the House to agree to the Senate substitute to HB 994.
Clerk, will you read the caption?
House Bill 994 to be entitled an act to amend titles 51 and 52 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to torts and waters of the state, ports, and watercraft respectively, so as to revise liability for the negligent operation of a vessel.
Representative Powell is recognized to explain the Senate substitute to House Bill 994.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen. You may remember about halfway through the session, we passed this bill that was to save the Georgia marine industry that leases boats. At that time, what has happened was because of vicarious liability, which was Georgia was only one of 3 states that had this, was that the people who were in the business of renting boats to the recreational industry in this state, that they were accepting total responsibility even for the folks that rented these craft if there was an accident. And because of that, a lot of our boat lessees, that they were going out of business because they just quite frankly couldn't afford the liability. Thanks to Chairman Lunston's committee and so many others, we approved this bill, took it out, and at that time, it was the first time I probably ever bragged on GTLA that they accepted this change of tort reform to that because it saved an industry for this state. Went over to the House, went over to the Senate, and we had the only change that they made was they raised the insurance rates so that for these people who are in the business of leasing boats, the marinas and such, that they will carry a $500,000 and $1 million liability, which when it left the House, it was $250,000 and $500,000. This would be in case there was some accident or something that happened because of a flaw with the boat or something like that. Mr. Speaker, I'd be glad to answer any questions, but if there are none, I'd appreciate your support and save this industry in the state of Georgia.
You have one question. Representative Gamble, up the center aisle on your right.
Yes, sir. Be glad to.
Does the gentleman yield?
I will.
Is it not true that for all of us who enjoy the waters of our state and recreation on our lakes and our rivers and even our oceans, that this is a great bill and it certainly will help our friends across the state that are in this business?
It certainly will, and thanks to the members of this House and even the Senate that I rarely brag on, this is actually going to be good for the business in this state, since we have so many wonderful lakes and so many people want to rent a boat or lease a boat instead of owning one. So thank you so much.
Gentleman has no further questions.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate your support for this.
Mr. Chairman, I know the Senate wouldn't believe it, but one of them walked in about time you were saying something nice about them. So we certainly he can verify that that's the case. No, you can't retract it. No, you can't. Gentleman has yielded the well. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 994, all those in favor will vote yes, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the yeas are 174, the nays are 0, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 994. Chair recognizes Representative Maynor for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I am making a motion for us to agree to Senate substitute to HB 1165.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 1165?
House Bill 1165 to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 35-6A-3 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to membership vacancies and membership not to bar holding public office so as to replace the chairperson of the Governor's Office of Children and Families with the Commissioner of the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health.
Representative Maynor is recognized to explain the Senate substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the exact same bill that we passed out of the House a few weeks ago, which allows the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council to have access to $7.4 million. The only change over there is that they changed the date in which it will go into effect, and that is when the governor signs the bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the will.
Ladies yielded the will. On the ladies' motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1165, all those in favor will vote yes, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the ladies' motion, the yeas are 168, the nays 1, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1165. No, we don't need to do that yet. I'm sorry. Representative Tim Fleming is recognized for a motion. Representative Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I make the motion that we agree to Senate substitute to House Bill 1207.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
House Bill 1207 to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2, Title 21 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to elections and primaries generally, so as to provide for proofing of ballots by local superintendents in certain races.
Chair recognizes Representative Fleming to explain the Senate substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 1207 is a combination of several measures that we worked with on the Senate that added to House Bill 1207, which passed this body unanimously. So I'll walk through the sections real quick. Section 1 of the bill states that election workers must be a U.S. citizen to work in the process. Section 2 and 3 was a measure brought by the Secretary of State's office, and what it does, it reopens qualifying when nobody has qualified in a contested election, and it would reopen it on that following Monday at 9 a.m. and closes Tuesday at 5 p.m. immediately following the original qualifying period. Section 4 is a candidate ballot proofing bill that we passed unanimously in this body, basically giving a 24-hour period for candidates to review a ballot before it goes to print or is loaded to the machines. Section 5 comes from counties' election superintendents. Basically what it does, it authorizes elections of superintendents to determine the number of voting machines at precincts on election day. Just on election day. Currently, in law, it has that there has to be one machine for every 250 registered voters in that precinct. What this does, it gives the county election superintendent, the Board of Elections, to review data, how many voters voted early during the early voting process, how many voted in the absentee process, so they can best deploy their equipment throughout the county as they see fit. Section 6 deals with some clarification around poll watchers and what they have access to observe and what they do not. Section 7 prohibits the use of threats or violence that would prevent or interference with elections operations regarding elections officials and poll watchers. This has been in the code for many years. It only said poll officer, but we added election official and poll watchers to that language. So I would ask for your favorable consideration to HB 1207. And Mr. Speaker, if there's no questions, I would yield the will.
Gentleman has a couple of questions, if you yield.
Yes,
Representative Jasmine Clark to your left. Representative Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you explain to me why, especially in times where sometimes it's very difficult to find enough poll workers in the first place, that we're limiting who can be a poll worker?
In which section are you referring to?
1.
So this is not poll workers. This would be anybody that is, if you read it, the person employed or retained by a county election superintendent that undertakes any election-related duties arising from this chapter. So yes, that would be poll workers because they do get paid for the process. And the belief is that if you're going to work in our elections, you need to be a U.S. citizen.
Does the gentleman further yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain why? I mean, I feel like there's a spectrum between someone being undocumented and someone being a citizen. We have permanent residents. We have people who are applying for citizenship. And I think that working the polls could be a very nice civics lesson in how our elections work. Why would we limit this to only citizens when, again, a lot of our jurisdictions are having problems getting poll workers?
Well, I would disagree. You have to be a citizen to vote. So I would say to work in the process, you should be a citizen as well.
All right, thank you.
Gentleman, yield for another question.
One more, Mr. Speaker.
Representative McCullum in the back, all the way in the back on your left.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir, to my friend.
Is it not true, I just had a local election, that this legislation would have solved part of the problem?
Yes, sir, Representative McCullum. You and I have talked about that several times. I believe you had a municipality in your district that had some issues with their last municipal election. HB 1207 would help address that. Mr. Speaker, I would yield the will and ask for your favorable consideration.
The gentleman has yielded the will. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1207, all those in favor will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the yeas are 100, the nays are 75, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1207. Representing Brad Thomas is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I motion to agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 461.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
House Bill 461 to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 13 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia and State relating to general provisions regarding specific business and occupational taxes.
Representative Thomas is recognized to explain the Senate substitute to House Bill 461.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill stayed pretty intact. There was some addition to the bill that cleans up the list of businesses that are regulated by the state and federal governments and are not subject to local regulations. Otherwise, the bill's the same. With that, I'll for any questions.
Gentleman has no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With that, you yield to well.
On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 461. All those in favor will vote yes, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the yeas are 175, the nays are 0, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 461. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Resolution 1135-1135?
House Resolution 1135 by Representative Jones, the 25th, and others, a resolution creating a House Study Committee on credit card fees on state sales and excise tax and their impact on Georgia merchants and consumers. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs. That committee recommends that this resolution be adopted by committee substitute.
Representative Todd Jones is recognized to present the bill. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, H.R. 1135 would create a study committee to assess the impact of electronic transaction costs to Georgia merchants, consumers, and financial institutions with a focus on the fees that are currently imposed on the state tax portion of the transaction, along with the rebate that is currently given back by the DOR. Mr. Speaker, colleagues, that is the summary of the study committee. I'll stand for any questions.
Gentleman has no questions.
Thank you very much, sir. I yield the well.
He's yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the adoption of the resolution 1135, the yeas are 164, the nays are 3. The resolution having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore adopted. Members, I'm going to take a little bit of detour here for important invite. The members will give the clerk your attention, and then the lady that will be in the well. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Resolution 1198? 1198.
House Resolution 1198 by Representative Dempsey, the 13th, Jones, the 25th, and Olowitz, the 42nd, Cooper, the 45th, Gamble, the 15th. A resolution recognizing the 25th anniversary of peer support and the associated certified peers.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Continue.
Recognizing the 25th anniversary of peer support and the associated certified peer specialist workforce.
Chair Lady Dempsey is recognized to speak to the resolution. And friends.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. This House is so very well known for how much we have focused on mental health and many different pathways to recovery, and focused on addiction, and focused on the heartbreak that all of that brings to so many families. But one of the greatest ways that Georgia has excelled and is the bright shining light, not only in our state, but in our entire nation, is about peer support. We have done so much. It began in 1999 and has just become stronger and stronger. Today we have actually 6 special visitors with us. We have Neil Campbell, James Todd, Larissa Guerrero, joined by Bella, baby Bella, precious over here, Ike Powell, and Wendy Tigran, who will speak to this. We owe much of the progress we have made and helping people recover by making that walk with someone else who has been there. And as we all know, that gives back just as much to the peer as the one who is supported.
Thank you, Representative Dempsey. You've always been such a champion for us and with us. Honorable members of the House, thank you so much for having us. I'm with the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities, and we really want to thank you for this recognition. I'm honored today to stand here, reflecting on the partner legacy of my colleague, Larry Fricks, from the department from many years ago, and great leaders like Ike Powell, who developed the Certified Peer Specialist curriculum, and the leaders of the Georgia Mental Health Consumer Network, Georgia Council for Recovery, and the Georgia Parent Support Network. If you don't know, I just have to take 5 seconds, 10 seconds to tell you, peer support has been recognized all over the country. It's been recognized all over the world. It's been recognized by every health federal agency. It has also been recognized by multiple administrations of the White House and has been adopted in multiple countries all over the world. So we are really just continuously inspired by this work. And I just really want to say the key to the overwhelming growth and success is lived experience, as Representative Dempsey so aptly spoke to. When individuals with lived mental health and substance use conditions are trained to use that experience as a tool to help others, it amplifies that voice of the person who's being supported. It radically changes the cultures in which the person receives services, and it focuses on lives of recovery, wellness, and above all, infuses hope. Thank you, and we appreciate everything you do to continue to the growth and evolution of this crucial service. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Peer support, obviously what you and your folks are doing is so important to us, your team, but I can tell you mental health and substance abuse is an absolute priority for this House, as we've demonstrated over the years, and we will continue to do that under the great leadership of Chair Lady Dempsey. We look forward to continuing to working with this partnership. And boy, recognized nationwide, that's Georgia continues to lead. Thank you for what y'all are doing. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Resolution 1166-1166?
House Resolution 1166 by Representative Meeks of the 178th and others, a resolution creating the House Study Committee on the exchange, storage, and bond coverage of the agricultural products, grain, and livestock. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs. That committee recommends that this resolution be adopted.
Chairman Meeks is recognized to present the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker, bring to you House Resolution 1166. Ladies and gentlemen, as many of you know, across our state, warehousemen are required to carry a bond. And over the past 12 months, we've seen an increase in the number of bonds that are being called. And many times the amount of the bond is not
cover the cost of the agricultural goods that have been agreed to be purchased from agriculture producers. So this is a study committee to take a look at the issue. I appreciate your favorable consideration, House Resolution 1166. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'll yield the well.
Gentleman has no questions. He's yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the adoption of House Resolution 1166, the yeas are 162, the nays are 0. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Mr. Clerk, will you read the resolution to House? Read the caption to House Resolution 1283, 1283.
House Resolution 1283 by Representative Paulo, the 33rd, and others, a resolution creating a House Study Committee on Safety and Consumer Protection of Nicotine Vapor Products. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Regulated Industries. That committee recommends this resolution be adopted.
Chairman Powell is recognized to present the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen of the House. I bring to you H.R. 1283. This creates a House Study Committee on Safety and Consumer Protection of Nicotine Vapor Products. You know what these committees consist of. 5 members appointed by the Speaker. And the reason for this is earlier in the session, Representative Gaines had the vapor bill, the registry bill, and we poured into a good bit of time and effort over in Regulated Industries Committee, and we realized at that time that this is an industry that's pretty well out of control to the standpoint that we don't know what's good and what's bad for the consumer product. Now, somebody like myself who has participated of enjoying the pleasures of nicotine and tobacco products all of his life, I'm not even familiar what this stuff does. I have been told that a lot of these products that are sold are adulterated. They come from out of the country. They probably got more boatloads of that stuff coming from China and places like that. But there is no standard, and it needs to be dealt with. We thought we had put some good language in that bill of Representative Gaines, but still there's other things that need to be dealt with, such as a lot of these vape shops fill their own vapes, which is it reminded me, for some of you who are as old as I am, y'all may remember when pipe smoking was popular. You could go to a tobacco store and they'd mix your own blend of pipe tobacco. Well, nobody smokes a pipe anymore unless they put pot in it. So there's none of that kind of tobacco products being done anymore. So now what you've got, if you've got these vape stores that they're mixing this on vape product. And you know, what I have always been told is that pure nicotine is like a poison, that you could put pure nicotine on your skin and it would kill you. So that's what we're trying to do, to look into this and carry it on a little bit further. And that, quite frankly, is about the consumer protection on these vape products to see what's in them. Be glad to answer a question. If there are none, please vote for this so the Speaker can appoint 5 of you good folks to study it over.
The gentleman has a question. I think, if you don't mind, Representative Hutchinson is recognized for a question.
Be more than glad to. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am, I yield.
So I just wanted to thank you for this, and thank you for giving me my signy-die bingo card where it says, Alan Powell goes to the well making jokes. So thank you for the jokes.
Well, I'm not responsible for that bingo card that you have that was passed out, but thank you for the compliments, ma'am.
You're quite welcome. My question is, We spoke in regulated industries about whether or not the chair of this committee could expand his study to include Delta 8 and Delta 9 products and other products that we have on the street in Georgia today to try and address that problem.
Are you asking me, does this?
Does he have the authority to expand the study?
Well, you know,
to
I
study
think
more
the
than just
latitude
vapes?
of a study committee, since it's so close, one is nicotine-based vape products and the other is hemp-based CDB stuff. And from all actions that I'm hearing is that the Senate has succumbed to the pressures of the monopolies that have the cannabis licenses, and we've got all that cleanup language for the hemp stuff, and it looks like they're getting a little bit light in the loafers over there about wanting to vote it out. So this might be an excellent committee, while they're looking at vape, to look at all these products that are being sold, that there's no control as to the purity of them and what may be adulterated and what may be of harm to the consumer in Georgia. And yes, I think that would probably be a good idea.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you
for the question.
Mr. Speaker, if there's no other questions, I'll be more than glad to yield this well.
Gentleman's yielding the well.
Thank you.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the adoption of House Resolution 1283. The yeas are 171, the nays are 0, and the resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Resolution 1360, 1360?
House Resolution 1360 by Representative Dempsey, the 13th, and others, a resolution creating the House Study Committee on Alternatives to Opioids for Pain Management. This resolution having been referred to the Committee on Health, that committee recommends this resolution be adopted by committee substitute.
Representative Katie Dempsey is recognized to present the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I bring to you a resolution for us to develop a House Study Committee on alternatives to opioids for pain management and other reasons. It's those other reasons, I think, that are also so vitally important. Over the past several years, we have taken a number of actions to combat the opioid and overdose crisis in Georgia, but the data clearly shows that more needs to be done. This study committee is our standard study committee with 7 House members appointed, 5 non-legislative experts, 2 from our agencies, from DCH and DBHDD, the commissioner or their appointees. What this would basically do is give us an opportunity for a robust conversation to study the ways and be aware of the existing non-opioid alternatives, including non-opioid pharmacologic treatment options, educational programs, and ways that we can not only help people who have real pain and need real pain medication, but also those who are easily led to become addicted. Mr. Speaker, that is what it will do. I will be glad to take any questions or yield the well.
Lady has no questions.
Thank you. I ask for your favorable support.
Ladies yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? For what purpose does Representative Bell rise? He waves. All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the adoption of House Resolution 1360, the yeas are 170, the nays are 0. The resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Resolution 1384-1384?
House Resolution 1384 by Representative Blackman of the 146 and others, a resolution creating the House Study Committee and assessing the semester and quarter system at USG and TCSG institutions. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Higher Education. That committee recommends that this resolution be adopted.
Chairman Blackman is recognized to present the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Fellow members, bring before you House Resolution 1384, which would take a look at the semester system versus the quarter system. I think over time there have been many assertions regarding that transition and the benefits to our state universities and technical colleges, and this would just allow us to take a little deeper dive and closer look at that, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman has a question. If you'll yield.
I will yield, yes, sir.
Representative Stacey Evans to your left is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
To one of the co-sponsors. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Isn't it true that when I started at the University of Georgia, go Dogs, it was the last time we were doing the quarter system at the University System of Georgia, and that I'm very curious to see if the study committee will tell us whether that change, especially in the university system generally, but particularly in the TCSG system, if perhaps having an extra time when workers come out of the workforce through the quarter system might serve us better, and that I really appreciate you bringing the bill.
Yes, thank you. I think we are of alike minds on that. Thank you for the question.
No further questions.
Well, thank you. I thank you for your consideration. And Mr. Speaker, I yield the will.
Gentleman has yielded the will. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machines? On the adoption of House Resolution 1384, the yeas are 171, the nay is 0. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Resolution 1229, 1229?
House Resolution 1229 by Representative Gladney, the 130th and others, a resolution urging the United States Department of Veterans Affairs to provide for additional resources to address elder care, nursing home access, and expanded disabled residential programs for the veteran community populations. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Defense and Veteran Affairs. That committee recommends that this resolution be adopted.
Representative Gladney is recognized to present the resolution. Representative Gladney. Gentlemen, if y'all would let her down the aisle. Looks like they had a roadblock, didn't they? Representative Lynn Gladney.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I rise this afternoon today to offer my sincere gratitude, first of all, to the leadership of this House in support of H.R. 1229 and all of those who support veterans. I'll continue by offering an opportunity and a challenge. I know that we've all seen the VFW ladies and gentlemen around our communities with their veteran caps and regalia on. When was the last time you recognized an unsuspecting veteran by thanking him or her for their service, or asking them about their tour of service? I invite you to seek out these experiences from them. Additionally, I challenge you to take it even a step further and to ask them how they feel about the services and the benefits they receive from their local VA. I have no doubt that you will learn a lot about the obstacles and the experiences that challenge them. At the request of the Georgia Department of Veterans Services, a Georgia State Senate subcommittee was submitted a prepared analysis from Kennesaw State University, which indicated that the current population of veterans, which is over 600,000, is not sufficiently supported by the 2 existing veteran nursing homes and 1 veteran cemetery. These facilities are located, one in Augusta and one in Milledgeville. Today, this urgent congressional resolution requests the United States and the Department of Veterans Affairs to provide for additional resources from their currently proposed $369 billion VA budget to address elder care, nursing home access, and expanded disabled residential programs for veterans in our community. Allow me to make a quick, sobering pivot. For my veteran colleagues, you know what the Forces Com protection condition is. If you've seen those movies, it's called an FCON threat level. Currently in the United States and NATO forces are at the highest threat level, indicative of foreign and domestic threats. Furthermore, military recruiting efforts struggle to meet quota and to maintain an efficient, effective, highly trained defense force. I would challenge us to consider this profound proverb. The character of a nation is determined by how they treat those that they think they do not need. For those who serve, they are owed our continued advocacy for their health and for the diligence in honoring their final resting site. It is my honor to ask you to please support this resolution. With that, I ask for your favorable consideration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield the well.
The lady has yielded the well. Thank you for your presentation. Is there an objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of House Resolution 1229, the yeas are 170 and the nays are 0. The resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Congratulations. Members, I'm going to take up a couple of pieces of legislation that we carried over from Tuesday. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of Senate Resolution 189, SR 189?
Senate Resolution 189 by Senator Dalzell of the 27th. A resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution so as to provide that the General Assembly may by general law authorize local boards of education to impose, levy, and collect development impact fees and use the proceeds to pay for a share of the cost of additional educational facilities. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Governmental Affairs. That committee recommends that this resolution be adopted.
Representative Todd Jones is recognized to present the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, on behalf of the Forsyth County delegation, it is my privilege to come to you with a constitutional amendment question regarding the imposition of impact fees for school boards for high-growth school districts. Those are school districts that have grown 20% in the last 10 years and have spent $250 million in the last 10 years. To give you an idea, the only school district out of 181 that qualifies as Forsyth County, and it has built one school each year for the past 23 years. Mr. Speaker, that is the summary of the question on SR 189.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. That's a great idea. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. And on the adoption of Senate Resolution 189, the yeas are 88, the nays are 84. This resolution, having failed to receive the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore lost. For what purpose, Representative Jones, rise?
To make a motion,
State your motion.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like the motion for reconsideration of SR 189.
On the gentleman's motion that this House reconsider this action in failing to give Senate Resolution 189 a requisite majority, all those in favor of reconsideration will vote yes, all those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? All members voted on the motion to reconsider Senate Resolution. Clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion that the House reconsider Senate Resolution 189, the yeas are 92, the nays are 80, and the House, the motion carries and the House will reconsider its action. Okay, members, we're ready to go again with some continued resolutions. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Resolution 1432,
House Resolution 1432 by Representative Curl, the 118th.
Members will please take seats. Members will please take seats. Take your conversations to the back of the chamber or to the ante rooms, please. Members, please take seats. Continue, Mr. Clerk.
A resolution creating the House Disaster Mitigation and Resilience Study Committee. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Governmental Affairs. That committee recommends that this resolution be adopted.
Representative Crowe is recognized to present the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I bring to you House Resolution 1432, and as the clerk stated, this would create the House Disaster Mitigation and Resilience Study Committee. Over the last several years, as we've seen an increase in development in our communities, growth not only in building and infrastructure, but people as well, the impact from storms that we have from different times each year has increased the cost, not only in property damage, but in lives lost as well. 2 years ago in January, we had a tornado come through my area. Unfortunately, there was a child that lost their life there, and a lot of property was damaged. And so this study committee would seek just to look at ways to increase our resiliency from the impact of these storms. A lot of things being done around the state in pockets in different places. And this would take a look at all of those and see if there's things that we can replicate throughout the state and things that we can give to the to GEMA and the folks there and support the good work that they already do, but help them be more effective and give them more support. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I will be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
The gentleman has no questions.
I yield the will and ask for your favorable consideration.
The gentleman yields the will. Representative Holly would like to speak in favor of the resolution. Representative Holly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleagues, I ask you to join me for your favorable consideration of House Resolution 1432. For the viewing public, this may come as a surprise, but this might be one of the very rarest of times in our chamber where Democrats will modestly recognize a moment of hope and possibly finally seeing the light from our colleagues across the aisle, from behind the smoke in the hot air. Yes, it was a surprise to me, but at the national level, the 81-person conservative climate caucus, led by Congressman John Curtis of Utah, of which has 2 Georgians as members, the Congressman Carter and Ferguson, has made the following declaration on its official website. Get this: the climate is changing. Private sector innovation, American resources, and research and development investment have resulted in lower emissions and affordable energy. Again, this is their site. They also say climate change is a global issue, and solutions should reduce global emissions and not just be feel-good policies. Practical and exportable answers can be found in innovation embraced by the free market. Americans and the rest of the world want access to cheaper, reliable, and cleaner energy. With innovative technologies, fossil fuels can and should be a major part of the global solution, while reducing emissions is the goal. Now, it sounds so similar to the goals originally put forward by the Progressive Climate Caucus, that studying these effects may protect individuals displaced by climate change. Further, as you see on this resolution on lines 16 and 17 of the bill, highlighting the quote, coordinated and collaborative effort to develop comprehensive responses and solutions, end quote, are actually goals that are shared by long-standing green economy proponents like the Center for Sustainable Economy, American Farmland Trust, Clean Water Action Fund, and the Climate Justice Alliance, and Greenpeace. Harvard Business School tenured professor and Oxford University scholar Robert Ickles even opined in his article, quote, "What I've learned from conservatives who are addressing the challenge of climate change," end quote, that neither liberals or conservatives can claim a monopoly on the best ideas for addressing the climate change. The truly best ones must be bipartisan because they are the only ones that will be put into practice. Areas of focus here should be public policy, a carbon tax, and the appropriate roles and relationships between the financial sector and technology. This year has been the warmest on record, 2 degrees higher, an effect that increases the tipping points of the ice caps melting, which has, we've seen in recent years, contributing to the rise in the sea levels. It also has been devastating the coastline. Researchers have reported that there's some very direct correlations between the change of global temperatures and human migration. As the Association for Environmental Resource Economists noted, that while the United States prides itself as a signee of the Paris Agreement, which seeks to hold governments accountable to satisfy ambitious climate action goals, but by their studies, the business community has derived a 10% higher return in revenues from green goods and services as a result of responding to these changes with free market solutions. This represents a level shift in market capitalization. With richer returns, we should not run from the burgeoning opportunities available in new green markets, providing responsive, low-carbon investments that can save money in the long run and save time, and help both governments and private partners make wiser use of funds and resources. My colleagues, it's 2024, and we would do ourselves a huge disservice by believing that the bad actors are limited to the stereotypical poorer communities, which often are worse off to adjust to more preventative measures, or that the bad actor would be fossil fuel industry giants that share in the characterization as the biggest abuser, but also are the most capable investor in new technologies that might better help our society to mitigate the harm of natural disasters. Judging the degree to which we ascertain the impacts of these climate change differences on our natural environment and our state landscape will more solidly direct our attention to the effectiveness of joint partnerships among the social responsibility of corporate community and ESG, that is, the environmental, social, and governance investments that might give us clearer, critical data and necessary metrics to better gauge accountability in addressing our behaviors relative to such change. The means can justify the ends, and sometimes the end goals are not so far-fetched, but can be easily found right here in Georgia. Mr. Speaker, only a few blocks from our present site is South Face, a well-respected organization that has taken up the mantle of incorporating standards of energy conservation into the quality of builds for a state's residential and commercial infrastructure advancements. Initiatives like resilience hubs employ the use of rainwater harvesting barrels and solar plus storage battery systems. There are additional possibilities which might result from this study committee that encourage positive economic growth, including reduced risks to our state's biodiversity among both flora and fauna, improved air quality, low carbon energy careers, healthier soil for crop production and cultivation, and improvements to our water containment systems. The data can better enrich our activities and behaviors as both individuals and businesses. You know, it's hard to admit that your friends on the left side of the aisle were wisely onto something by recognizing that the actions of people might be negatively contributing to the erasure of our ozone layer, the erasure of our soil, and the contamination of our drinking water. But I've learned from one who created the sea, the land, and earth that sometimes when folks come to see the light, sometimes you just gotta count it all joy. And that's why, colleagues, I hope you will join me in supporting House Resolution 1432. I now yield the well, and I've had so much fun.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? For what purposes Representative Ridley rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Sir, is it not true that my friend there, I don't know what he's talking about, but this bill here is to help when an emergency happens, like in 2018 when Hurricane Michael, or in 2020 whenever we had the tornadoes in Chatsworth, to help get the emergency groups together to get rebuilding quicker.
That's what my understanding of my reading of the bill was. For what purposes Chair Lady Camp rise?
Re-inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that on the night of the inauguration of Governor Kemp in 2020, a litany of tornadoes hit my area and caused lots of damage, and it was very challenging trying to mobilize in the dark across county lines, trying to make sure the people got the help they needed that night in the coming days as well?
I think that's the purpose of what we're doing. Appreciate the lady's insight. For what purpose does Representative Knight rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that I, like my colleague Jason Ridley, just wants to make clear to this body that this is a study that is just about looking at the disasters, that it has nothing to do with a climate change. It has nothing to do with environmental, social governance. It is just simply a resolution It allows this state to react to the natural disasters that happens here and not the fall in politics and climate resolutions and regulations that are driving people out of the states that are embracing them.
I'm sure the gentleman knows of what he speaks. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the adoption of House Resolution 1432, the yeas are 152, the nays 16. The resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. House will come to order. House will come to order. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Resolution 1435, 1435?
House Resolution 1435 by Representative Stevens of the 164th, a resolution urging the state of Georgia and the Department of Economic Development to support the Vince Dooley Battlefield Preservation Fund as part of the Georgia U.S. 250 Committee's observance of the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Economic Development and Tourism. That committee recommends that this resolution be adopted.
Members, if you're having a conversation on the floor, now's the time to take them to the ante room or outside, or cease your conversations. If you need me to call your names, I will. I'll give you an opportunity to return to your seats or take your conversation to that ante room or that one. That some of the members want to understand what's being presented. And obviously some of you don't. Chairman Stevens is recognized to present the resolution. Chairman Stevens. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, House Resolution 1435 does one thing and one thing only. It is to support the Vince Dooley Battlefield Preservation Trust Fund for the Georgia 250th Committee's observance of the United States 250th anniversary of the American Revolution, 250 years. Most of you may not know that Vince Dooley was an avid historian, but ladies and gentlemen, the organization was founded, of course, in 1987, and its purpose was to preserve these battlefields. The trust fund has already saved over 58,000 acres in 25 states, and half of these battlefields have already been lost with the American Revolutionary War. I would ask that you support this observance, if you will, and again, I'll ask for your favorable consideration.
Gentleman had no questions, and he's yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the adoption of House Resolution 1435. The yeas are 170, the nays are 0. The resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Resolution 1498, 1498?
House Resolution 1498 by Representative Rhodes, the 124th, a resolution creating a House Study Committee on Private Water Systems. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs. Act Committee recommends that this resolution be adopted.
Chairman Rhodes is recognized to present the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Resolution 1498 deals with private water companies. These are not city or county water companies. These are private. They play a vital role to a lot of our communities in rural Georgia, but we just want to make sure that our constituents are being treated fairly on their rates and their fees, and that's what this does, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman has no questions.
Thank you. I ask you to vote green.
Gentleman has yielded the will. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the adoption of House Resolution 1498. The yeas are 166 and nays are 0. The resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Resolution 1554, 1554?
House Resolution 1554 by Representative Smith, the 70th, and others, a resolution creating the House Study Committee on Navigable Streams and Related Matters. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Natural Resources and Environment. That committee recommends that this resolution be adopted.
Chair Lady Lynn Smith is recognized to present the resolution. Chair Lady Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and members of the House. I don't think it will surprise any member of the House of Representatives that we've already had several debates now on navigable rivers and private property rights. This time, we're going to spend more time researching and looking into this and seeking your opinions. And with the study committee, there is one addition we didn't have last year when a majority whip had the study committee. We also are familiar with having several bills this session, and we're only successful at passing one item. This is important to every citizen of Georgia and also to the visitors of Georgia, and it's also important for certainty for our DNR rangers. This time, with the 7 members on the committee, one of the members will be an attorney at law in this state with the experience with water rights and private property rights appointed by the Speaker of the House. We hope that knowledge can help guide us through this difficult but very important debate. With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield the will.
Lady has no questions. She's yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the adoption of House Resolution 1554. The yeas are 167, the nays are 0. The resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Members, we're going to break for a dinner break here in just a minute, but first we're going to hear from Representative Doreen Carter, an announcement she needs to make.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There was a mishap earlier that I had an announcement. It had absolutely nothing to do with food for today. However, next Saturday, April the 6th, we're going to be hosting a firearms safety education event that I would love for you all to share with your young people if you're in the metro area. That we'll be hosting it in the city of Lithonia. Our police chief and several other firearms instructors in Viewpoint Health will be talking to the young people about safe storage, how to properly handle firearms. We'll be updating them on the law. And we will talk about mental health and suicide prevention. We all know that firearm safety is extremely important, and we want to take a concerted effort in ensuring that our young people and some adults understand the proper use. And so not only will we will be educating, we will also be giving away gun locks and gun safes. So if you're interested, you can contact my office, but we'll be hosting this event next Saturday from 11 to 2. Tell your young people. Thank you. I yield the will.
We're going to have a couple of announcements now, and then we're going to break. Chairman Williamson is recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There will be a majority caucus meeting in room 341 immediately upon our break. A majority caucus meeting in room 341 immediately when we break. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chairman Knight is recognized for an announcement.
Just a quick reminder, as we finish up Sine Die, we got a few more tickets left for the Sportsman's Caucus, the rifle we do. We're going to try to draw at dinner time or at the end of our dinner break. So please see me if you haven't got tickets. Thanks.
Okay, we're going to stand in recess until 7:15. 7:15 sharp. We have a special visitor coming soon after. So all the members, it's not Santa Claus either. So we have a special visitor coming. So this house will stand in recess until 7:15 p.m.